What's up, guys? Paddy here again for another tactics video for the 2 Plus podcast. Today, we're going to look at probably one of the most divisive or feels bad rules in the game, in my experience, evasive. And it's a rule that a lot of people don't know about. I play Wood Elves, so I've been able to use this rule a lot, but there's been a lot of times when I have used it, and it's the first time someone has actually experienced this rule. And it's quite a swingy rule that makes people waste time and make misplays. So I thought it would be really interesting and helpful for people to get across this rule in case you play against Wood Elves and you can avoid those feels bad moments, or if you are a Wood Elf player and you can create those feels bad moments that no one wants, of course. But let's have a look at the rule here. This is, of course, if anyone's unaware, this URL is probably your best friend playing the old world, tow.whfb.app. It has the entire rule set on there, and you can search any rule you want, and it's probably the quickest way you can find rules references in my experience, and it's all there on your phone. Let's have a look at evasive. The rule reads, once per turn, when a unit in which the majority of the models have this special rule is declared the target during the enemy shooting phase, that unit may choose to fall back in good order, fleeing directly away from the enemy unit shooting at it. Once this unit has completed its move, the enemy unit may continue with its shooting as declared. So there's a lot to unpack there, but first, enemy shooting phase. That includes magic missiles, which is pivotal for an army like Wood Elves to avoid things like fireballs. The way you abuse this rule, or use it rather, is to figure out how far the enemy has to move and then cast fireball at its maximum, sit at that range. So then they have to decide whether they move and try and fire it, or they march to try and get into a better position for next turn. There's a few things to unpack there, but first I quickly want to just show you what models in the game, or what units in the game actually have it. I'm not going to run through all of these. Most of them are Wood Elf models in my experience. The ones we are going to have a look at are the Deepwood Scouts here, and at the bottom right, the Glade Lord. And what's interesting about the Glade Lord is it's a character that has that rule, so the rule transfers to its mount. And that could be a great eagle, a warhawk, a stag, or you guessed it, a dragon, which I'm going to show you later in this video as well. The other one that is very, very, very good is the warhawk with a level 4 mage on it, a spellweaver. And then these units have Swift Stride as well, so I'll go through that later, but you can add that to it as well because it's a flee move. But this is an example of how I used it in a game recently. So my opponent Michael here is playing Empire. He has a steam tank, and I have my Deepwood Scouts here. He is firing his grape shot at them. They're sitting at about 8 inches or so away from the steam tank. He chooses the target. Sorry, he chooses grape shot. Then he chooses the target. I evasive, fall back in good order. I think I rolled a 6, so I went the full distance, and that put me out of his range. So now that I'm out of his shooting range, he can't pick a new target, and he cannot shoot the original target, which means he cannot shoot anything. This is why a lot of people do not like this rule the first time they experience it, but there are ways to play around it if you know it. So for those who don't know it, take note of that. If you're going up to a unit that has evasive, you want to get further than you need to, closer to them, so they can't evasive away. Now, in this example, I rolled the max, which was very helpful. I needed a 5, I think, to be fully safe. But for an army like Wood Elves, who are generally toughness 3, no armor, they need a rule like evasive to stay on the board for longer. If they couldn't do moves like this, they would just be, I would say, even more obnoxious to play against because they would honestly hide behind trees the whole time. But let's go back into the rule again, because as stated, it is a fallback in good order move. So fallback in good order is just like a regular fleeing move. Instead of fleeing, you roll 2d6 and you discard the lowest result. A unit that falls back in good order automatically rallies at the end of its flee move as well. So there's a few things here that are huge for evasive. As I mentioned earlier, because it's a flee move, you can add Swift Stride. So that means you're essentially getting a full flee move and you automatically rally because it's a fallback in good order. The other thing is, because it automatically rallies, you're able to do a free reform. So that means you can change your facing and rearrange your ranks. Reforming and moving on your opponent's turn, I believe, is probably among the more powerful things you can do in the game. So if you can master things like this, get out of the way, get a free turn to look away from the danger. If you're a close order unit, then march on your turn out of danger even further. It's incredible how effective it is at keeping your unit safe. Now I want to show you how this works for a close order unit like this. As you can see up here, my Glade Lord on a Forest Dragon is being targeted by a priest on an Ancient Stegodon who has the Burning Alignment, I think it's called, which is the bound fireball spell. And then there's a Skink Priest, or a Skink on a Pterodon who has a Ruby Ring. They both want to fireball this dragon. He has one wound left. I was running this with just a 4+ armor save, no Talisman of Protection. Toughness 6, sure, but enough dice, you'll eventually roll the 6 that does the wound, and I have to make that armor save. So he targets it. The way that evasive works as well, you have to trigger it. You declare whether you want to do evasive when they target you. So he targeted me with this Ancient Stegodon first, so I flee directly away from this. I'm on top of a hill. This is very important. The Ancient Stegodon is not on the hill. I needed about 6-7 inches to get off of the hill, and I managed to get it. So I rolled a 4 on the 4 and something else. 4 was the high dice and the 4 back in good order. Then I was able to add my Swift Stride for another 4 inches to get off the hill. Putting this hill in between the enemy units, they can no longer see the Forest Dragon, meaning they can no longer target it. I then have the opportunity next turn to march further away. And that's where fall back in good order for a unit like this. I didn't do it properly here. I should have turned it even more facing that way to get into the forest and then try it again next turn. But nonetheless, you see the power of it. This dragon had 1 wound left. 2 fireballs probably would have done it. I managed to negate that completely. So there you have it, guys. That is Evasive. It's a very, very useful tool for those squishy units in the game, and it's a very annoying rule to come up against if you're trying to kill them. So I highly recommend you get used to it and tell your friends about this video. Like, comment, subscribe, you know the rules, and we'll see you for the next tactics video. Thanks again.